ऑफिस योगा, कार्यालय में जो लोग काम करते हैं उनके लिए योग किस प्रकार से किए जाते हैं, किस प्रकार होने चाहिए, जिसमें हम अपने कार्यालयीन उत्तरदायित्व के साथ साथ योग जैसे महत्वपूर्ण घटक को अपने जीवन में शामिल कर सकें, इसके लिए एक प्रशिक्षण कार्यशाला रखा गया है 1 घंटे का। तो उसमें भी आप लोग रुचि लेकर के शामिल हो सकते हैं। और इसके साथ ही मैं निवेदन करता हूं रविशंकर सर से कि आज दूसरे दिन के दूसरे सत्र को आरंभ करें। थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू। So dear participants, and welcome to those on the offline and online. So we are progressing. Now we have come to the second day, second session. Hope all of you enjoyed in the morning session the practical aspect, the paleographical aspect of the early Maurya or the Ashokan Brahmi. So now we'll have a presentation which gives the salient features, the origin, development of the Brahmi script. I'm not going deeper into the aspects, the theoretical aspects like origin, like indigenous origin or foreign origin. In fact, to tell you in brief, still the origin of Brahmi script is being debated, discussed. We are unable to come to certain definite conclusions as for the origin of Brahmi is concerned. Various theories are there, but we will look into the salient features. As you have seen, during the Mauryan Ashokan phase itself, we got Brahmi in a most evolved form, and including C.S. Upasak, who worked primarily in this area, has come to the conclusion it is of the genius or the brainchild of the Sanskrit grammarians, scholars of those, because it satisfies all the phonetical value. It could be well written in Sanskrit, though in the earlier phase when they devised it, when the inscriptions started appearing in Prakrit language, so we don't find some of the forms which are to be seen in the end of the 1st century BC or the beginning of the Christian era. So that is with the advent of Sanskrit language, because there is a transitory phase where there are Prakrit inscriptions with Sanskrit influence, and there are many Sanskrit inscriptions, some inscriptions with Prakrit influence. So that is a phase when, like when you see the Heliodorus inscription, you kind Putra, Tratara, like this, there is an attempt to bring in Sanskrit, but not completely. Like this, it is there. But I would like to mention here the many inscriptions that are kept or on display in Mathura Museum. You can fairly look upon the many aspects, especially the early period inscriptions which they got from Kankalitila and many such excavations. Whether you take the Brahminical cult or the Buddhist or Jain, I think Mathura formed the nucleus where you find all the, later it emerged to the core of the Aryavarta, what I can say, put it in brief. So you get all the phases, whether from inscription, Jaina inscription, there are so many. So far, I have visited many other places except for Mathura. It would be very interesting when you go to the Mathura Museum. You get to know it represents almost the early phase of Buddhism, Jainism, Brahminical cult, and whatnot. Everything is there. And so the Brahmi I told in the beginning, it has a very long history. So Dr. Ramesh rightly calls it a pan-Indian script. Brahmi, the Panavas, has a unique place in paleographical studies. In fact, the entire edifice of epigraphical, paleographical studies rests on this script, which has a long history spanning over nearly 1,500 years. Brahmi as a script and its derivatives, in which hundreds and thousands of inscriptions are found not only in Indian subcontinent and beyond in time and space. Are you able to see, or light is much? सब देख सकते हैं ना? So as Dr. Ramesh puts it, the decipherable epigraphy, very nicely he has used that expression. And when you read his Indian epigraphy, the language is very flowery. In fact, one sentence begins and ends in half a page. Like K.V. Soundarajan, we read his works, very high-flown language. Like D.C. Sarkar, you can't understand. The English, is very, some, they have that, this one. It goes long. You have to reread to understand what they really, many times. It's not, for our epigraphists, what I see, what I say or what I talk or write, it should be as simple as possible. It need not be very, when you write some history, that can be. But to express yourself, it can be very lucid, very simple way, so that anybody can understand easily. So he calls the decipherable epigraphy begins with the edicts of Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. Of course, when he wrote long back, now we have pushed back the antiquity little further with the Kiredi excavation and Professor Rajan and all. They have taken, whether it is Mauryan Brahmi or Brahmi, here we are concerned with the system of writing. So, if time permits, somewhere, in the end, I would like to introduce you slightly to the Tamil Brahmi also, at least it's just like Mauryan Brahmi, only to suit certain phonetic sounds, like R with Ya, Ra, R with 2 dots, L with 2 dots, like that, some Tamil sounds or phonetic sounds are different. So, other than that, it is simple Mauryan Brahmi only, with very slight changes. So, they have introduced some 5-6 new letters to suit the Tamil language. So, that is a different thing. See, I told, this epigraphy is a very challenging area. You can't expect me to know either Tamil epigraphy, box-headed characters, Kutila, Sharada, so many. So, try to know, if somebody asks about the characteristic features of the Sharada script, you should be able to tell at least the basic, what is Vatteluthu, Tamil, or some Grantha script, at least the basic concept, when did it originate and how long it was there, which region it was used. Some broad concept, I think that's the main purpose of this whole workshop. to identify you, not to make a master you in one of the area. It's only how rich Indian epigraphy is there. That's what I have told in the beginning also. I stand in the same motto. That's why with the zeal, mission, I am taking to different parts of the country because it is everywhere. Whether you go to address the Srinagar students or here, it hardly matters. It is one uniform script which prevailed in the entire country at one point of time. Now it may be different. So this holds good in the entire Indian subcontinent. So that's what I want to touch upon and make them realize they have a rich history, rather from Srinagar to Himachal or northeast. Even I am going to Guwahati at some point of time to highlight the importance of northeastern inscriptions. So everywhere it is there. So out of interest, when you go to different parts of the country, you cannot go with a restricted mind just to appreciate only a portion. And most of the places where they are conducting, either they do Kannada only or Tamil alone. So they are not giving a wider exposure to the participants to appreciate the richness of our country's great heritage. So that's one of the reasons I'm taking you to different scripts and explaining. So besides Brahmi, Ashoka records, Ashoka, especially that period when you take, Kharoshti, we have, I am going to show separately one more presentation. And other than that, he got his edicts written in Aramaic and Greek also, especially for the benefit of the subjects who are on the northwestern part of India. And as you know, Aramaic, from that, the Kharoshti evolved, and there is least doubt about the origin of Kharoshti script. It's well settled. But when it comes to Brahmi, it is still discussed. We don't know. Again, the literary sources, other sources are exploited or looked into to find the origin. So, as stated above, Brahmi used by Ashoka, which survived in India for centuries and became the mother of all the modern Indian scripts. That's what I gave you in the morning about the textbook part. You just keep it in mind, and when a suitable time, I think, when of you go to some higher levels or interact, what I intend, I think it holds. But many officers are not willing to accept this, I don't know, to create. So including Southeast Asia, it traveled, the Brahmi and its derivatives. So the Brahmi, the origin exerted minds of several scholars during last century and a half, even to this day. Yes, the way some 20-30 years before these scholars were very seriously thinking, but now that research attitude has come down, what I feel. And I'm very sorry to say the original research is not going in the way it is required. Most of the time they Google it, copy and paste and all this sort of things are going on. Why can't always when you do a very serious research work depend purely on the secondary sources? That's what you are learning here, to modify your statements, your approach to the subject, whatever earlier done, if you just bring it some wrong things, it's not good. So you should be able to access the original source. If you really feel it has to be rewritten or reinterpreted or redefined, you can do that. So that's the main thing. We have to get back to the original source. A mistake is that makki ka makki, they say, the prati. what is done is just produced. So the standard of research, whether in the area of any, I don't know about the science, but in humanities it has come down, and lot of plagiarism test is going to conduct before a thesis is taken for due consideration. Why we have to take that? Can't you write in your own words? Why you should pick up the statements or the paras, just reproduce it? I too have consulted, but only to understand their concept you have to write on your own, talk on your own. Why you should depend on the text who has already written? So you can modify your language, you can put your own interpretations and all. So this is a serious thought message I am giving for the researchers. That's very essential, whether any university for that matter, there is we are compromising greatly with the quality of the research that's being done. Just for the award of degree, it's not like that. It's a very serious academic matter. When I'm talking of the source, I'm compelled to make certain my own observations and remarks. But please don't feel offended when I give my certain observations in this regard. So when we see the look into the certain texts, the Chinese encyclopedia is there. There you get the word Fawan Xin Shalin. That is a work, Chinese encyclopedia, where in 7th century they refer about the Brahmi script. That is Fan. Fan is Brahma created. Brahmi, when you look into the origin, it is connected with the creator, the universe, Brahmi, how it is then. And somewhere, it has gone, and they want to rename it as Dhammalipi. Another wave started somewhere in Maharashtra and all. I don't go with that, this one. Earlier scholars, if they wanted to change the nomenclature, they would have done. Dhammalipi is that the Dhamma, Ashoka wanted to express whatever pious deeds, this one, he called it Dhammalipi. Not to rename, that he didn't name. Brahmi means Brahm, that is, now we can't take it as Dhammalipi. So, that's another aspect of the thing which we not deliberate upon, but it's not acceptable. So, according to Arab writer Al-Benuri, the Hindu had once forgotten the art of writing. Through a divine inspiration, it was rediscovered. These are all the mythological, or that also we have to keep in mind. Some tradition we can't forget. See, there are different approaches to history. One through tradition, mythology, that also we have to take into account. But the more authenticity comes in other forms. Simply if you go to temple, Sir, 5,000 saal se ye mandir hai. It may be 1,000 years, but when you ask the priest, he will normally take it, Brahm se sthapit hua hai. Ye hai, sir, it is very old. So, to trace the antiquity, anything will say it is from such a long. You will say, I am from Parashara, this like that. No doubt that lineage is there, but where is the historicity? Only your inscription can give the date of the temple, not merely connecting with the yes. When you see the genealogy, either they belong to solar system or lunar, Somavamshi, or they born from the fire or from Brahma. This is the natural tendency in Hindu tradition to claim our ancestry to the to the rishis, to all and all. Yes, that is one aspect. But to historically place on a valid ground, it is only through when a dated inscription comes or other iconographical features. if you go to a Pallava temple, there may not be an inscription, but there are already established norms how a sculpture of Pallava can look like, or early Chalukyan temple, or any temple in Bhubaneswar. There may not be inscription, but there are certain stylistic things scholars have already put it in, fix it in some period. So if epigraphs are also found, it can strengthen your arguments or your observation. Thus, literary sources are there. So, foreign theory, this at length, the Richard Solomon has given about a detailed account of the foreign origin of Brahmi, and there are indigenous theories also. So, Mueller, James Prinsep, Sennert, and others, they said the Brahmis had its origin in Greek alphabet. So, it's their own observation. So, with the advent of Greeks, they said they modified perhaps and developed the Indian system of writing when they came in contact Alexander's invasion. So scholars like William Jones, Weber, A.C. Burnell, Isaac Taylor, George Buehler held the view that this Brahmi script derived from Phoenician, Aramic theory, and South Semitic and North Semitic. These are all the theories are there. A more detailed account, that's what I am not giving much emphasis in the origin here. Or rather, any theoretical aspect or much of historical. My entire focus today or in the days to come will be on the paleographical aspects that you can read and understand. I not delve deeply 2 hours on the origin itself, because our time is precious to focus on the writing system. So others, what I strongly believe, you can read and understand. It's not difficult, but a stroke and curve and these things, need to be explained in little detail to understand the different scripts. Buehler, a great expert on Indian epigraphy, paleography, suggested North Semitic origin, and some of the examples he cited by him did not stand the scrutiny to justify his stand, as known from a large number of majority of Ashokan edicts in Brahmi script. The direction of writing is only from left to right. So it just didn't get it, and which also the case with regard to the scripts of India derived from Brahmi. But for Arabic and Persian, where we use from right to left, and Kharoshti, of course, the major script. So all our Indian scripts, you take anything, it is from left to right. So the direction itself is precisely defined in the... So whatever theories you want to put forth, this the primary first condition it has to satisfy, the direction of writing. Indigenous scholars, they say, like R. Shama Shastri, what for our R. Shama Shastri is known? Can any one of you tell? His greatest thing, for the first time he edited Artha Shastra of Kautilya. And very much the manuscript is in Mysore Oriental Research Institute. So he made a contribution, edited it. That's why R. Shama Shastri is known for the first person to edit the Kautilya's Arthashastra. So it's in a very brittle stage. Still, if you visit Mysore, you can request them to display, show the palm leaves. Connected, the Sanskrit text contained like many other things. I will just skip over these indigenous theories. You can make a note of it, or by reading books you can make some notes. It's not our main concern here, but yes, still one has to, when you take a class, at least you have to brief them. What are the indigenous theories, what the foreign theories. So this need to be told to the children. Hello. 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 हैं? मेरा अभी क्लास में हूँ मैं. It's only after 6 you can contact. Yes. So these are the theories. So as regards the theory of Dravidian origin, it has pointed out that the oldest Dravidian language possesses signs, phonetic characters, ka, nga, cha, and like that, some letters are given. And further, grammarians possesses the signs of all the letters of 5 vargas. It is difficult to accept the theory of Dravidian origin of Brahmi script. So Professor T.P. Verma suggests a fresh approach to the problem of the origin of Ashokan Brahmi script. So he observed that the birth of Brahmi script should be considered in the light of cultural renaissance that preceded the period of Ashoka. That is somewhere around 6th century, when Buddha was born, or Buddhism and Jaina, Mahavira. So he takes it to that period where he finds to locate the origin, or somewhere around 6th century BC. Though we don't have epigraphical records, perhaps many Buddhist texts and others were started, they are there. So he take it to somewhere in the 6th century BC, the origin. So during this period, India, particularly North India, witnessed great cultural movements, and it's very convincing also to a great extent, which had far-reaching impact on the socio-religious, artistic, literary and linguistic history of the country. Since Prakrit was a popular lingua franca, widely used by Buddhist monks, and under this strong cultural movement, a simple and precise script was created. So this is somewhat very acceptable postulation, what I should say, and Prakrit being the language. So T.P. Verma's suggestion I have very briefly used here. So this is very important. When you look back, we take only the name of James Prinsep, associated strongly. Yes, it's the final key he gave us for the decipherment. But we also at the same time look into what is the history behind that decipherment. It's not in a day or 2 years, 3 years, they did that. It goes to centuries. So if you see that, scholars started deciphering 10th and 11th century inscriptions earlier. Then they went to the Gupta, then to the early Brahmi. It's not that from early to the later period. So when they started deciphering, they started with the later inscription of 10th century, and then slowly they could do with the Gupta, and then they could come to the early phase. So the history goes like this. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, first it all started with him, the effort to decipher Brahmi script. He called some local pandits to his court, and that is 1351 to 1388. He shifted 2 pillars Ashokan edicts were laying from Topra and Meerut, and in Uttar Pradesh to Delhi. He shifted that. That's huge pillars. Even when you go to near Banaras, there is a site called Chunar, where you find monolithic huge pillars. The quarries are there. Perhaps that was a place where they used to transport the huge pillars from Chunar to other adjacent areas. It's near Varanasi, the Chunar. Many mason marks are there. I have personally visited and copied also, but nothing great sensible thing I could make out during my visit to that Chunar. So he invited number of Sanskrit pandits to decipher. They may started when this is the history. It all started with Firoz Shah Tughlaq first, the first decipherment towards the Ashokan script. But none could decipher the script. A similar attempt was made by Mughal Emperor Akbar. Akbar also, but again without success. So the second stage, and again in the second phase, that is the first early phase, only after the advent of the British rule in India, scientific efforts were made to decipher the early writings. There is one more is there. I think I will take it up tomorrow. The history, many stages I have tried to show. That is not perhaps here in this. Let me see. Asiatic Society of Bengal, I was telling yesterday, it's a very momentous occasion of the time. Not only epigraphical studies, it gave a great impetus to Indological studies connected with Sanskrit and many humanities. Though some later inscription, including Gupta records, were decipherable, it goes to the credit of James Prinsep to find the key to the decipherment of Ashokan Brahmi with the help of short inscription. All of you might have read or known, like Danam Danam. When it seriously started coming, he was intrigued. What is this? So then with that background, he could go trace all the letters. From Sanchi, with great patience and perseverance, he worked it for quite a few years and wistfully gazed at the unknown script which concealed the mystery of India's thought and culture, and at last in 1837 found the key to it and successfully deciphered the entire script. So this is in a brief way I have told for a different presentation, but I would like to give you So it is said, in the very introduction, Ahmad Asandani has said that Charles Wilkins, I told, they started with the later inscription, like Badal Pillar inscription of Pala, Narayana. That was the first Indian inscription to be attempted to be Chini, come. Chini? Sugar? Sugar? Thank you. Fine. So, Charles Wilkins, the first person to try an inscription. He could decipher that Badal, first inscription of Pala king, Narayana Pala. Then Pandit Radhakant Sharma read the Delhi Topra pillar inscription, not that Ashokan, but Chahamana king, again, Visaladeva. He succeeded, at least in the same year, 1785, they started with these two early medieval inscriptions. The first is Pala inscription of Narayana Pala, followed by Chahamana king Visaladeva, they deciphered. And subsequently, in Barabar Hill, there was a Maukari inscription where Wilkins tried to decipher. So this in sequence. And there was a period when James Todd, Colonel Todd, he surveyed Rajasthan, Central India, Gujarat between 1818 and 1823. Annals of Rajasthan, when you see, it's a very interesting book where he has tried to give notice many inscriptions also in his work. Anyway, that's particular, I will try to circulate it tomorrow. So this further, the nature Taylor described as you all seen in the morning. It's very bold, simple, grand, complete. The characters are easy to remember, facile to read, difficult, read up there. Another great scholar, Cust, observed, the Indian alphabet is a marvelous and magnificent phenomenon. These are their observation with regard to the Brahmi script. Phenomenon quite unraveled in the world, and indeed the arrangement of letters representing symmetrical combination of the symbols to indicate different shades of sound together with the cerebral letters, aspirate consonants, anuswara, anunasika, and the three sibilants sa, sha, and sha, sha, and sa. Make the script not only a perfect one, but also a unique one in the world. That's what the scholars opined with regard to the Brahmi script. It's unique, really. So all of you, of course, experienced it also. Those who are new, how beautifully they are simple. At the same time, it satisfies all the phonetic sounds, and it is magnificent. Whomsoever devised, we don't know, but they have done the perfect way. So the Brahmi script consists of 7 vowels, including nasal, om, 33 consonants, including semi-vowels. The special feature of this script is that vowel A has an inherent sound. A, when you see, we not, sometime, in Tamil Brahmi, you have to add one more stroke for the presence of A. It is A. When you simply write vowel A, it has the inherent value of vowel sound. On this account, some scholars are inclined to describe the script as syllabic cum alphabetic when they try to describe this. So regarding material and the tool, the inscriptions are found engraved on rocks, pillars. We have cave inscriptions, and in one case on a slab, Shilapata. There is one rock edict, Ashokan, written on this slab also. So cave inscriptions are there, pillar inscriptions are there. Largely, of course, he chose huge boulders. And in edict also he says, wherever you come across to the Rajuka, that please convey my message to all. So that's what you find a trail of wherever they traveled, when they saw some rocky outcrop of granite boulders, they engraved, so that the passers-by should notice and read the message boldly. So that means the commoner also in those days must be aware of the Brahmi script. That's how they try to read and understand what is message for the common people. So the pillars are very well polished in accordance with high standard. That's what I was telling. Try to learn early Brahmi, Mauryan Brahmi through their pillar edicts. Don't go to the other minor rock edicts, boulders. So please try to read these inscriptions. So the actual shape of the letters depend on the writer's method producing the letters. Two stages are involved in this writing. First, the writer, Lipikara, I was mentioning. Two persons here in the early phase. Of course, in later Gupta, post-Gupta, you find the composer, writer, and the engraver. Here, perhaps, the composer gave the script to Ashokan period, and the writer and engraver seems to be the same person. But only the third category comes in little later phase. Here, the composer and the engraver during the Ashokan period. First, the writer, they use the chalk. How they will mark? They take a chalk piece. First, he will write it, and implicitly the engraver will cut it. Engraver, I told in the morning, he need not be a literary person. An illiterate person also, if a mason is given a chisel and a tool, he will cut it. The technique is very important here. Later stage, they used pen technique, ink, perhaps with a, when you hold the pen, automatically some head mark will follow, and they extended it where the top will be thick and when it goes down, it will be thin. But in chalk, a simple stroke comes. You can't make it. But during Kshatrapa phase and all, when the pen technique came, that's how the evolution started, mainly because of the technique that was involved in later stage. Ashokan or a similar phase, they used the chalk just to draw letters of uneven size. Some they did that, and they later cut it. So they used chalk, charcoal, or hematite, where they could stretch, form the letters, and then the letters are cut, engraved by the stone, on the stone. Cutter, while was a literate person, sometime engraver, probably an illiterate person, while the varieties in some of the letters are due to the mannerisms a person who is engaged in Rajula Mandagiri or in Andhra must be of different when you find another person in northern India. So it varies. Well, varieties in some letters are due to the mannerisms of the writer, and some differences are due to the method of engraving also. So whatever said and done, I told in the morning, which accepted, Ashokan Brahmi is imperial variety. Only the varieties started with the Kushana, like eastern variety or western, more to be seen in the Gupta, like central variety, north, like that, you find varieties. But with the Ashokan phase, it is one simple variety, that is this one, imperial variety. So post-Ashokan period, as mentioned earlier, Ashokan did not have any regional varieties, hence it was called an imperial script, and the different forms of each are due to the vagaries of engraver or the mannerism of the engraving. It's an established fact that the standard script prevailed throughout the vast empire, Ashoka, up to the Karnataka region in the south. So this Brahmi of the post-Ashokan period. So, as you are aware, other than the Ashokan rock edict, we have some few inscriptions from Piprava, Sahagora, Mahasthan and other places. Down south, the Battiprolu, which is quite unique in its own way. And of course, the similar period we have the Tamil Brahmi. In Andhra, we had the earliest basis is from Godavari, that Guntu Battiprolu, which is very different in its engraving. And then the contemporary you find in the Tamil Nadu. So this is how the spread. So inscription began to show variety of purpose, and they are not only royal but also private. Ashokan, it formed one similar type, its message. You don't have any secular, though much could be made out from the Ashokan rock edicts in different aspects. Yes, the Piprava, Saugora and Mahasthan, they had a different purpose of some administrative nature. As I told, when some disaster or fire or flood, such occurs, So to address the local people, the administrators had to get into the action. So that's slightly different. But the real thing, what we can also call the religious tourism, what we now call tourism. Somebody from south going to the north and Yatra Safala, or Barhut, they go and donate a pillar or some suchi, many things, it's a donation. So people, not only they mentioned their name, but from which place they also traveled. Not only there, his father or some, this one. So don't you consider it is a religious tourism? Now we go to Kashi or Patna, Bodh Gaya, we also travel. But in those days also, they traveled and they recorded also. We don't leave any record. When we travel, it is we can't do that. In that, when the population or whatever at that time, some donations they made to the stupa, the temple, whatever. So it's just going across the country. This need to be highlighted when we use tourism day and all. It is a thing of the past. They were traveling extensively. Migratory trend is another thing. But as a tourist, you are going and again back. Many medieval period records you took, they say, Yatra Safala. I successfully completed my tour on such a year, date and all. They give like 15th, 16th century. Many inscriptions are there. If you see, they use the pillars of the temple. Something. So, what at present we call it is there, but only we have to locate through epigraphs and highlight these things to our younger generation. These are the activities which prevailed in the past also. So, this is a very detailed thing where I have mentioned about the certain aspects connected with the paleographical aspects, which I would like to deal, or when I take the Shunga period, I will go with these details which I have tried to give here, which I have given here. It is not that essential for us right now. I have gone little more elaborately in my presentation. It is not at present required to go into that individual letters and all. So I will skip these portions, and then Donny said that new writing tool of this period, sharp edge pen. I was telling, just like this. When I start writing, for example, if this is the pen, think I am in the Shungan phase or little later, Satrapa. So what they taught, they held the pen, automatically it was a thick and some head appeared. So with the head mark, they started a thick stroke. Normally the upper will be thicker and it tapers off when it comes to down. They elongated the vertical stroke also, and when they ended, they gave a very beautiful turn, and they, instead of that horizontal mark what you see in the Ashokan, but they took it and gave like a dagger form, or to cursive form they took. So it is just when you hold, and this could form because of the charcoal, that chalk. It was simple. And they could, but later they used this painted pen technique where the head form occurs, and automatically not very consciously made head form. Later they developed the head mark separately, box headed, whatever. Later it is a letter there. Either you call it head mark later, or also serif. These are the two expressions which almost means the same, head mark or serif. So later I will tell you what are different varieties of head mark, but this is only to show how they made change with the this one. For example, Sa, they started writing one stroke, they put like this, another stroke, and they connected Sa. See the Mauryan Sa, how it was very different, and during they brought in alignment and it looks more beautiful. They looked at the aesthetic aspect also, and they want to bring in more information in a smaller area. So they reduced the letter, equalizing the vertical strokes and all. And this, of course, when you examine the Greek coins and all, that too had a greater influence, because in a smaller area they want to bring the Greek legend also and the Brahmi. So they brought in changes which developed further. So this the use of edge pen made the letters in their vertical portion thick and the top and gradually thin towards bottom, giving a dagger-like shape to the letters, something like the reed pen. It can be seen in flourishes found in curved letters. Also, there are some inscriptions, Kshatrapa from Mathura, the Shodasha inscription I will show you later, Pabosa cave inscription, Barhut gateway inscription. These are some of the Ayodhya inscription of Dhanadeva and the Hathigumpha inscription of Kharavela, all belong to 1st century Common Era, represent the script of pre-Kushan phase. So the letter Brahmi, I told the 3rd century BC to 3rd century Common Era, the early Brahmi, and the later Brahmi starts from 4th to 6th, or 5th, or a little early part of the 6th century, we can say. Then it leads to the Kutila or Siddhamatrika script. The next stage in the development script is seen from the Gupta and their contemporaries. Gupta script is divided into 2 main varieties, northern and southern. Northern variety is further divided into northeastern variety, and of course these we will be seeing very important varieties when we deal with the Gupta script. We will not go into the so many minute aspects of the varieties. Yes, it's a very broad-based varieties I am going to show you when we come to the Gupta period. Too much of at this point, if I pour in so many things, it will get confused in these few days. So let's try to understand the basic forms and their at different point of time. So going too much and making it too technical will confuse. Now, once you gain little command over the subject, then you can read yourself and appreciate the next stages. Yes, next instance when we come again, we can take as a second stage the more detailed technical aspects in the as a level 2 or advanced method. The first is this is the introduction. Next level we can go to the deeper aspects of the paleographical study that can come as a second module. Not in one go you can't make it. So this only to acquaint you. When you see some Gupta seal, yes, this is Gupta period. That much if you gain knowledge to identify, that's a great thing. Yes, seeing by yes, Kushan, this is Kshatrapa, at least something, some paleographical aspects. So these are the late Brahmi. So I have tried to give as a Brahmi very quick look at this thing. I think now, Shunga I have not brought that. We can look into some of the paleographical works that's very essential. That is Bobbington. This all given in the Indian paleography by Ahmad Asandani. When you read introduction, I hope already you should have looked into the PDF form and download it. Start reading. It's very essential. Similarly is Indian epigraphy by D.C. Sarkar. You can read a few pages from to enhance your knowledge of paleography, read Dani's book. To know certain aspects connected with the epigraphical aspects, you can read DC Sarkar. So this can go in a simultaneous way. Few pages, Dani's book, and few pages from Indian Sarkar, DC Sarkar, Indian epigraphy. So that you can understand both the concepts which are to be dealt in these few days. So Babington, he prepared, he was the first scholar to make Sanskrit and Tamil inscriptions from Mamallapuram. He prepared a charter in 1784, okay, and then followed by Colonel James Todd, 1818 to 1823. That was the period he was engaged this work. He also made a collection or studied inscription ranging from 7th to 15th century. I told no, he traveled in central India, Rajasthan and particular this area, and he was the first, not first, of course he was one of them to made extensive survey. Annals of Rajasthan, Colonel Todd, if you read the book, they are very good diaries. And the first scholar was the Walter Elliot to prepare a Kannada alphabet. Sir Walter Elliot, in 1833, for the first time he wrote a book examining Kannada inscription. He made one Kannada alphabet. So, as I told James Prinsep, by examining bilingual coins, he made and prepared a book also, Modifications of the Sanskrit Alphabetical. See, they had different way of naming the books from 543 BC to 1200 AD. That's the real title, written by James Prinsep, Modification of the Sanskrit Alphabet from 543 BC to 1200 AD. This is the, we can't modify. Whatever earlier scholars, now we say common era, that's all different. But while we refer, we have to retain the same title. Now so many changes came that you can't modify the title of the book. What they wrote earlier, we have to retain the same name, same title. And now, of course, with the change of knowledge and the approach, we have named a different thing. Subsequently, Burnell, in 1874, he wrote Elements of South Indian Paleography. It's a very old book. Later, research scholars wrote many more books. But he wrote from 4th century AD to 14th century, he prepared one chart. So based on the chart, it's the further scholars, because more number of inscriptions were available. Now, when Ojha wrote Bharatiya Prachina Lipimala, perhaps he had a smaller number of course it was sizable number, but now compared to this, we have large, is it not required now one more paleography book to be written now? It's very much essential. When Dani wrote 70 years before, still we hold that. But are we not to examine the new inscriptions and bring some modifications in their observation and your own? But we are, paleography is such a little tough subject, nobody would like to venture in writing. For secondary source, we will write some, collecting the articles and we write something. But paleography you have to examine, take all the facsimile, photographs, each letter you have to examine very carefully and come to your own conclusion, what are the changes that come. So that's why it started, people, students, they don't take a paleography as one of their research subject. And who is to guide them? The big question mark comes, if somebody chooses a topic connected with paleography, who are the competent persons to take their research? Isn't it? These questions bother us now. And then for Southeast Asia, we can remember a Dutch scholar for the first time, K.F. Holle, K.F. Holle, is the first Dutch scholar to examine Southeast Asia inscription. He brought a book in 1877. So the historiography of the that itself is a good thing. When you read introduction, scholars have recounted all the early works, right from when you read Allahabad pillar inscription, for example, CI volume 1, the first one huge long paragraph gives all the earlier works from the one and later additions that have gone. D.C. Sarkar also say, earlier first published like this, with that modification, I disagree with the reading, I am writing my own with my observation. So all the scholars, they take what's the earlier work done, the first work, and then what are the other works they have improved, and you can improve on that. So when you see the CI volume revised corpus inscription, maybe the Mehrauli iron pillar inscription or Mandsaur inscription, anything, they first give where it is first published, and then the improved readings, because they would not have got a good facsimile or the impression. So there is scope for improvement. Now also with the digitized, you can improve some reading. If we seriously look into this one, definitely if you have that language also. See here, not merely the background of script is one aspect. Script and language, they go like face of a coin, obverse and reverse. Though I say now you have to focus on script, course of time you have to know the language also. Unless you have very sound Sanskrit, you can't interpret properly and understand the terms unless you know in detail the classical language. Let it be Kannada or Tamil, Telugu, any language, you have to have a very strong base. Then only you can understand, give a proper reading this one. So Cunningham, first he wrote Ashokan inscription in 1877, first. And J.F. Fleet in 1888 wrote the Gupta and their contemporaries. See, it's a very monumental work, J.F. Fleet. What he has written, he has brought all the contemporary inscription. And Ojha, of course, all of you know, in 1894, even now we refer, 1894 he wrote Bharatiya Prachina Lipimala, 1894. And then Hulsh, he edited volume South Indian Inscription Series 1, he started. As he was the first government epigraphist, he edited that. And then 1896, George Buehler, he brought out a book on paleography. Of course, basically a German work, Indische Paleography, like that, it's a German. Later they translated it to English. So like this, regarding Ceylon, 1951, one Vimalananda, he worked on the Sri Lankan inscriptions. C.S. Upasak, I told he worked on this. So this when looking into these publications also, we had Epigraphia Indica and Epigraphia Xylonica, that is Sri Lankan inscription, though few volumes are available, and Epigraphia Burmica, that is inscription reported from Burma. So what happened now, this series did not continue for long. They brought a few series in the beginning, but unfortunately it ended. Ceylon. For example, you have excellent inscriptions, Travancore archaeological series, like Gopinath Rao, many eminent scholars, they. But this series, they ended at some point of time. They did not continue. Like Mysore archaeological reports, it also ended. And Hyderabad archaeological series. So this, some 50 years or 60 years before, they are of very high standard, the publications. Unfortunately, most of the departments which they used to bring periodically, now the Mythic Society Bangalore, good. They are bringing regularly, though the quality might have come down little. But there are very few organizations, either they go online, make it e-format. But there is a need at every stage. Even the directorate here, whatever there, thanks to many archaeological reports, this Chhattisgarh archaeological department, including many seals and sealings and many archaeological, they have brought out very successfully. I'm very happy to say in this directorate here, very good work. Whatever the excavation conducted, they have brought it to the knowledge of the scholars. So like that, there are many publications which were there from 50, 60 years before, but unfortunately they had to discontinue. Even Epigraphia Indica, we had to give away, in the sense it can be revived, it started, but again, first of all, the resource person whom we have to approach for a standard article. We can't compromise with the quality. Any journal can have, but there are certain set standards for certain publication. Suppose I want to assign to someone the corpus inscription indicarum, how to look for that scholar, who will edit. That's a big crunch merit, this one. So now with the revival, now we have to revive this subject. We are moving in that direction, at least the first step. When all of you gain some competency over the script and language, yes, you can think of bringing some more good publications. So that is the scenario. Now, when we deal with this, especially when you read the introduction, when so many inscriptions started appearing all over India, Dani has classified them into 4 geographical divisions, depending on the number of inscriptions and all. He has tried to locate that Eastern India, the varieties also, it includes Magadha, Eastern India, Magadha, Kaushambi, Barhut, Bodh Gaya, and Hathigumpha. And he has mapped the whole thing at that point of time. Now it can be changed. So Eastern India, he made one category, and the Northwest he has taken as another group, where you have got inscription from Taxila, Mathura, and Malwa plateau, and he comes down to the Deccan. And Northwest Deccan, he continues with the Malwa plateau, and South India, he takes East Indian Deccan, and down south he has not mentioned, but at least in his book, you find the 4 categories. And he has also tried to say the styles which emerged from individual Eastern variety. He has, because some centers he has tried to locate, like Magadha and Taxila and all, where individual styles of writing also emerged. Of course, in East India, I has tried to show the Nagarjuni cave in Bihar, Piprava. These are some of the things which I has tried to mention. I bring this one. In a brief way, I can take up this Kharoshti. Then we will conclude. Brief. So कल शुंगा और क्षत्रपा करेंगे और आगे थोड़ा Kharoshti थोड़ा दिखाएंगे. Then we will. I forgot to bring the chart here anyway. And one more आप दिखाए ना Kharoshti वाला. Another major script, two major script, of course, at length. Though Kharoshti, I think it's not there in the schedule, but still, I want you should be aware, and I'm not going into the paleographical aspects of Kharoshti because I have not worked in that also, to tell you. But I will be sharing the chart prepared by Professor B.N. Mukherjee. After examining the coins and many manuscripts and all, he has prepared that tomorrow I will share the chart so that at least you can practice. Why many scholars are not taking deeper interest in Kharoshti? Basically, it's not that attractive when we take in the evolutionary process. Brahmi always dominated. Kharoshti has a very limited history. When you take say from 3rd century BC to 3rd century Common Era, 600 years. And that too without any evolution. You don't see the forms that were formed in the 3rd century BC. It continued without any, because of the region. It was confined to northwestern region, very limited region. It didn't percolate to the other parts. So one of the reasons being a smaller region, being its popularity or usage in northwestern region, and later it went to Central Asia and further. Unfortunately, it died. It didn't continue as one of the major scripts. Though Ashoka got, what are the two edicts? I alone need not talk. Yes. Then? Mansehra. Shabas Garhi and Mansehra. These are the two Ashokan Kharoshti inscriptions. So that you find only in the northwestern part. For the people to popularize Buddhism or the message of Buddha, he want to convey to the subjects who are there in the. So its origin lies in the Aramic script. Straight. They modified a little Aramic and created an indigenous script called Kharoshti. It basically owes its origin to North Semitic, Aramic, and then Kharoshti. Some modifications they made. Aramic people were there, but Aramic people, they had to do something for the local people, how they will understand. So they brought some changes, made some modifications so that those who are in that region could understand the Ashokan, the Kharoshti script. Now let us see in a very brief manner. So among the major scripts of ancient India, other than Brahmi, Kharoshthi occupies a very prominent place as a major script by virtue of the direction, how it is written. From yes, right to left. When I pass, it is fill in the blanks. Direction, it is from right to left instead of from left to right, which is popular Brahmi and its derivatives. So this intrigues, people. Suddenly, if I give you a Kharoshthi inscription, you have to start practicing. You have to read from here, not from the left to right, but right to left. So that you have to tune. You have to prepare yourself for that. Again, after Mukherjee, perhaps his students are doing something in this area. But again, we don't have an expert, an authority in this. So, in the Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum Volume 2, CII, when I say, Part 1 deals with the Kharoshthi inscription. Please read, edited by Sten Kano. Sten Kano it's a very huge volume. CI Volume 2, Part 1. Part 2 deals with Barhut inscription. Instantly, why I am telling Barhut inscription, again, of course, many of our earlier, they know, there are many small label inscriptions in Barhut. To practice early Brahmi, it's the best suited volume. All small, this one. If PDF is there, you try to, at least if there are very ASI publications, if available, very cheap also, not highly priced. You can purchase and you can try to decipher all the small inscription. Tomorrow we'll try. Some I think I have some facsimiles. We'll try that. But I am telling CI Volume 2, Part 1 deals with Kharoshthi. Introduction, very vast introduction. You have to read. Of course, it depends upon your patience. आप सभी बैठे ना, it shows your patience. Otherwise, when calligraphy हम पढ़ाते हैं, लोग चले जाते हैं. To hold you the entire day, to some extent, I am able to deal with the subject. And other thing, your patience. Patience is very important. Otherwise, no. So for epigraphy, your patience is it can't come immediately, no. You have to do effort to understand, you have to read, then only practice. All these are there. That's why many resort to archaeology. I don't say it's easier. एक टेराकोटा ऑब्जेक्ट मिलेगा, आपको उसको नापना है, उसको बताना है क्या क्या है बस. बट इफ़ यू गेट वन इंस्क्रिप्शन, उसको आप 2-3 दिन पढ़ना और ज़्यादा पढ़ सकता है. इफ़ इट इज़ फ्रैगमेंट्री, इट विल टेक योर हेड. सर मेरा एसिडिटी हो जाएगा होता, देखते देखते एसिडिटी है. So many drifted from epigraphy to archaeology. This is one of the reason where उसको ज़्यादा वो काम नहीं. काम नहीं means that archaeologist also does the field work lot. I am not, but this requires more patience, perseverance, and knowledge of different things, language, mythology, command, history, everything is required. Anyway, this coming to that, end of 19th century script was referred, names as Bactrian. Earlier scholars, instead of Kharoshthi, they gave different name because it came from Bactria, that region, northwestern region, they call it Bactrian. Indo-Bactrian, Kabulian, and so on. Different names they give. And this, apart from Brahmi, this appears in Lalita Vistara, a Buddhist work of 6th century. Brahmi to pehli hai. Uske baad, in that series, Kharoshti also finds a place in Lalita Vistara, that the Buddhist work. It mentions 64 scripts. 64, not one or two. We are unable to identify what are those scripts now. Nagari या some could इस तरफ अलग अलग नाम है उसमें, but we are able to make out 2 or 3 in the entire range. Different names hai. Probably at that point of time, region-wise they went, they have given names different. But Kharoshti also figures in Lalita Vistara as the second name. So why I am taking, Professor Mukherjee made a lot of research, wrote books also, and for the first time he tried to give a different interpretation for the name Kharoshti. Earlier they called asleep, so many etymological meaning, so it is nothing to do with that. So Mukherjee, a pioneer in the study of Kharoshti, Kharoshti, script prevalent, Khara Osti, that is script prevail in the particular region. He gave altogether a very sensible, appreciable meaning, etymological meaning for Kharoshti. So earlier say it appears like asleep or something, because the letters, that is not a Khara, means as, Oshti means the tongue. They went, but here Kharoshti, Mukherjee gives a different, very good interpretation for this. The question of origin, meaning name, still remain problematic. Origin, of course, it is settled. There is no such, as far as Brahmi, we have problem. So geographical change or the location, script was widely prevalent in northwestern region. I have been repeatedly telling it is the northwestern because of the Aramaic and all. As per the prevalence of inscription, the scholars have tried to define the geographical limits. Wherever they found, they have tried to define the limits of the inscription. The foreign conqueror from northwest used it in a well-known from inscription from Mathura and Jamna, where Brahmi was established a popular script. So we have coins with Kharoshti legends have been found in Seistan, Kandahar, and the westernmost Kharoshti inscriptions are found on Kawat in Afghanistan. The northernmost Kharoshti records come from Tirat in Swat, Khalatse in Ladakh. So these are the limits where they have found the uppermost limits of the Kharoshti inscriptions. And they have found some fragments from Mohenjo-daro in Larkana district, now in Punjab. In Pakistan. Nature. The Kharoshti has found stone inscriptions, metal, vases on coins, on small piece of birch bark from stupa in Afghanistan, and Bhujarpatra from manuscripts from Dhammapada from Khotan. They have discovered these manuscripts. The invention of diacritic strokes for new sounds is most important in, as we did know this, at least in vowel, there are not many. One, if it's a single letter, by adding strokes, not like Brahmi, still limited. With one stroke, they add a stroke, then derive the remaining vowel signs with one letter. Here we have at least this one, evolved form, but in Kharoshti is very limited. So the technique, when it comes, it is a pen style. Mostly you find a cursive form. Angularity you don't see. It's all cursive because of the, I think first they started writing on a Burjapatra where the stylus they used in writing. So the form of the letters is mostly cursive. Pen style remained in use throughout, that is 600 years. What you see, they used pen technique, which is written easily under. The ink style of writing is seen from Potsherds, Balochistan, and Turkestan. So this about the technique, how they used to engrave, and the origin. The very fact that Kharosthi was written from right to left led to the early recognitions of its relationship with what I just told, Aramic script, which was the main branch of the North Semitic alphabet. There are two, one is South Semitic, another is North Semitic. The most important being the employment of one basic form for the initial vowels, that is only one, and just by strokes they derived all the remaining vowel forms. Scholars are of the opinion that Kharosthi is originally adopted to write the local language spoken by the common people, that is in the northwestern region. To write in a script the local language spoken led to the origin of Kharosthi script. It was this necessity which created Kharosthi from Aramic. Aramic say A with a modification slight, they introduced Kharosthi, which I wrote. The paleographical features, as you know, other than Brahmi script, derivative Kharosthi alone stands separately among the Indian script, which is written from right to left. Another very prominent feature is symmetrical monument. Early Brahmi Kharosthi has a cursive ductus. Duct means just like when you hold the stylus lighting to write on a manuscript, a birch leaf or palm leaf, it is not the regular pen technique. So Kharosthi script employs essentially the same diacritically modified consonantal syllabic system of Brahmi, and it derived despite some important differences in detail. So this I can skip over. So basically we can understand that 5 or 6 centuries, whatever the variety or the alphabets that were used in Ashokan or early, it continued for nearly the 6 centuries. There is no modification or evolution, whether it is in the coin or on a potsherd belonging to different periods, you find the same form. Because of one major reason being, its usage was limited to very limited area. That's one of the reasons in northwestern region. So I have dealt slightly with the Kharosthi, their relation, this we not writing styles. Other than 2 rock edicts of Ashoka, Mansehra and Sabasgari, the usage of Kharosthi script found in the legends of Indo-Greek coins. Paleography of these coins is influenced by metallurgical technique. The letters generally show angular features in this when it is on coin. In a few letters there are minor changes from those of Ashokan inscription. This is a very broad. Other than that, you have inscriptions, Bajaur casket inscription of the reign of Menander, Swat relic vase from some other Indo-Greek king. Certain variations we can see in this. And it continued till the Kushan period, later Kushan. But maybe end of the 2nd century or 3rd century beginning, it ends that. So the Kushans of course, there are some inscriptions written in Brahmi as well as in Kharoshthi script. So chronology I have already told. Ashokan, of course, all you know, 3rd century BC, of that period, from Shabasgari and Mansehra. And other details I have tried to give. And it declines with the fall of the Kushan Empire. So, say from 3rd century BC to the later half of the 2nd century Common Era, you find the usage of Kharoshthi to a very great. Now I think we are not coming across now in the recent years. Whatever, very rarely I think we have not heard in the recent years any new Kharoshthi inscription being discovered. Maybe here and there, because the area limitation of the area and the survey perhaps. So we have to read mostly about those inscriptions which were discovered in the long past. So there are no even survey. I don't know. I have no experience in my entire length of 40 years or 40 above. I have not come across any new Kharoshthi inscription except those that are preserved in the museum. Of course, I have not gone to the northwestern region also. Yes, even Himachal and all we don't find. So it's a restriction of the area only. I think these are the reasons which has not fascinated the scholars to take up further study and teaching. But it's a major script. Like Brahmi, it is one of the major scripts. You have to know, understand its features, and it is there very much. So conclusion, the Kharoshthi preserved in inscription mostly on stone, but also on metal and other materials. The vast majority of these are found in Buddhist records, not Jain, Buddhist. We don't have that Jain. Mostly pious donations and foundations was also extensively used in coin legends. You have got bilingual, biscriptal coins, Indo-Greek coins, where we have this Indo-Parthian, where both Brahmi and sometimes Kharoshthi and the Indo-Greek Roman legend are there. Audumbaras, Kunindas, Rajanya, Kharoshthi was rarely used by itself on coins. Most specimens are biscriptal. Thus, Kharoshthi script occupies a prominent place as one of the major scripts in ancient India. So, with this, I have given a very broad spectrum because it needs to be in the scheme of things. When we deal with the ancient scripts, we cannot afford to isolate or keep aside. At least you should know about the origin and its style of writing, bit of its geographical location, position and all. At least if somebody asks, when did this Kharoshthi written or what is the etymological meaning, these are the things you should try to explain someone. Being an epigraphist, if you say, I don't know, it is not a thing. When it is, has its own place as one of the major scripts in India. So with this, I conclude my class today. And tomorrow, perhaps when you come, we'll spend some time with the writing your names, or in the evening when you go home. Since there are not too many, I can easily handle. See here itself. Your notes you can bring. Here in between when we take a break, we will see your notes, but please practice after going home because things are fresh in your mind. Only after 2 days, it may be little this one, but since we have dealt in the morning, and I want to go with the introductory things with the Brahmi and Kharoshthi have done it today. So tomorrow we'll be focusing on the paleographical aspects of Shunga and Kushan, Kshatrapa, all the three phases, so that third day we are entering. So the days are coming down and we have to cover many more aspects. Now I request him to summarize our talk today.
थैंक यू सर। तो जैसा कि आप सभी अभी सुन रहे थे रविशंकर सर को, और सर खुशी की बात है कि यहाँ पे ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन जो प्रतिभागी जुड़े हैं उनके साथ साथ हमारे डिपार्टमेंट के कॉलीग्स, सीनियर ऑफिसर, रिटायर्ड ऑफिसर भी यहाँ पे अपने इंटरेस्ट लेकर के इस कार्यशाला में पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं। और कुछ बातें जो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हैं आपकी इस बातचीत के दौरान जो हमने नोट किया, हमने देखा एक महत्वपूर्ण जो चीज़ें घटित हो रही हैं इतिहास में, उन पे हमको अपनी पैनी नज़र रखनी चाहिए। खरोष्ठी जिसके बारे में अभी सर बता रहे थे, खरोष्ठी यूँ ओरिजिन देखा जाए तो थोड़ा अर्ली ब्राह्मी के कंटेम्प्रेरी या उसके पहले का है, लेकिन ऐसी लिपि जो कुछ समय के बाद कुषाण काल के आते आते पूरी तरह से प्रचलन से बाहर हो जाती है। कोई भी भाषा, कोई भी लिपि आखिर प्रचलन से बाहर क्यों होती है? तो उसके अनेक तात्कालिक कारण हो सकते हैं जो हम सबको अंडरलाइन न कर पाएँ, लेकिन एक जो मोटी बात समझ में आती है कि उनमें जो एक लचीलापन होना चाहिए। ब्राह्मी के साथ देखिए, ब्राह्मी का अभ्यास आज भी हम लोग कर रहे हैं या उसको करने की आवश्यकता समझ रहे हैं, इसलिए ताकि हम भारत में प्रचलित अन्य सभी लिपियों की जानकारी प्राप्त कर सकें। उसके लिए आज भी ब्राह्मी एक आधार है। लेकिन खरोष्ठी जो है उसके समकालीन चलते हुए भी एक प्रकार से अगर ब्राह्मी और खरोष्ठी को सिस्टर लैंग्वेजेस कहें तो कोई बुरी बात नहीं होगी या कोई अनपेक्षित बात नहीं होगी। तो लेकिन इसमें हम देखते हैं कि ब्राह्मी की स्वीकार्यता आज भी बनी हुई है, वहीं खरोष्ठी जो है वो प्रचलन से बाहर हो गई। यही बात कमोबेश भाषाओं पे भी लागू होती है। अनेक ऐसी भाषाएं हैं जो विलुप्त हो चुकी हैं, बोलियां, डायलेक्ट्स विलुप्त हो चुकी हैं। तो आज जो हम ये कार्यशाला आयोजन कर रहे हैं, इसके पीछे भी कहीं न कहीं हमारे मन में वो दुविधा है कि ये लिपि भी, ये ब्राह्मी लिपि भी लोगों की अरुचि या समझ में न आने के कारण या इस पे विशेष ध्यान न देने के कारण इसका हश्र खरोष्ठी की तरह न हो जाए। इसलिए हम सबको जागरूक होना चाहिए और खास करके अपनी प्राचीन लिपियों को और उन लिपियों के माध्यम से जो इतिहास प्रकाश में आता है उनको लेकर के सचेत रहना चाहिए। बहुत अच्छी बात सर ने बताई कि प्राचीन अभिलेख चाहे शिलालेख हों या ताम्रपत्र हों, इनको हम देखते हैं तो इनके पीछे लेखन कला की एक सुव्यवस्थित परंपरा रही है। राज्याज्ञा होते ही लेख प्रशस्तिकार जो है, कंपोजर जो है, वो लेख तैयार करना शुरू करता था। लेख जब कंपोज हो जाता था तो राइटर या जो सूत्रधार होता था उसको शिला सतह पर या धातु की सतह पर ड्राफ्टिंग करते थे, उसकी लिखावट तैयार करते थे। और उसके बाद एक ऐसा व्यक्ति जिसको बिल्कुल पढ़ना लिखना नहीं आता था, वो छेनी हथौड़ी के स्ट्रोक से उसको बहुत ही सुंदर तरीके से अमर कर देता था, जीवंत कर देता था, जिसके आज भी प्रमाण मिलते हैं। और उन्हीं प्रमाणों के सहारे हम फिर उस अतीत को खंगालने का प्रयास करते हैं। एक बात जो सर अपनी बातचीत में बता रहे थे, जो ट्रैवल होता था उसके भी रिकॉर्ड्स हमको इंस्क्रिप्शंस में मिलते हैं। बहुत सारे पिलग्रिमेज इंस्क्रिप्शंस हमको राजिम में, सिरपुर में देखने को मिले हैं। और तीर्थाटन की तो परंपरा रही है, बहुत पुरानी परंपरा रही है। खास करके जो रिलीजियस ट्रैवल होते थे, फिर व्यापार, वाणिज्य व्यापार के सिलसिले में भी बहुत सी यात्राएं होती थी। हमारे यहाँ कुषाण कॉइन बहुत मिलते हैं, तो मिलने का कारण वही है कि लोग ट्रैवल कर रहे थे, ट्रेड रूट में हम थे। और इस रूट में लगातार कार्यों का, तीर्थाटन करने वाले लोगों का आना जाना चल रहा था। सिरपुर में काई युआन का कॉइन मिलता है, चाइनीज़ कॉइन। तो ये सब चीज़ें बताती हैं कि लोग ट्रैवल कर रहे थे। न केवल इनलैंड बल्कि बाहर फॉरेन ट्रैवलर भी हमारे यहाँ आ रहे थे। दानी सर का जिक्र किए सर, अहमद हसन दानी सर का जो जिक्र आया, उन्होंने प्रारंभिक का स्कॉलर में उनकी गिनती होती है और बहुत बड़े स्कॉलर थे अहमद हसन दानी। उनका छत्तीसगढ़ कनेक्शन है। अहमद हसन दानी साहब बसना के रहने वाले थे, महासमुंद जिले में। उनका फैमिली सर अभी भी यहाँ है। तो जब भारत पाकिस्तान का विभाजन हुआ तब दानी साहब ने पाकिस्तान को चुना और वहाँ चले गए और फिर वहाँ डायरेक्टर जनरल के पोस्ट से वो रिटायर हुए। बांग्लादेश में उन्होंने बहुत सारा काम किया। रूस का सर्वोच्च नागरिक सम्मान उनको मिला। बहुत बड़ी हस्ती थी सर। तो ये इस प्रकार की जो जानकारियाँ होती हैं वो हमें गौरवान्वित भी करती हैं कि ऐसे लोग हमारे बीच रहे जिन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम किया, बड़ा मुकाम हासिल किया। और इसके साथ ही आज इस दूसरे दिन का दूसरा सत्र हम यहाँ संपन्न करने जा रहे हैं और कल पुनः फिर हम 10 बजे से अपना कार्यशाला प्रारंभ करेंगे। आप सभी से जो मित्र ऑनलाइन हैं उनसे भी हम आग्रह करते हैं कि आपको जैसे ही लिंक प्राप्त होगा आप हमसे जुड़ जाएंगे और आगे इस कार्यशाला के जो तकनीकी सत्र हैं उनका लाभ लेंगे। मैं पुनः गुजारिश करूंगा जो ऑनलाइन हैं हमारे फ्रेंड्स कि आप अपनी जो भी क्वेरी है वो हमको व्हाट्सअप कर देंगे। हम क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन में उस पर डिस्कस करेंगे और केवल लिपियों से ही संबंधित नहीं, एपिग्राफी में आपके कैरियर से रिलेटेड अगर कोई जिज्ञासा है तो वो भी आप पूछ सकते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे बीच रविशंकर सर हैं, वो आपको हर प्रकार से गाइड कर सकते हैं। इसी के साथ हम अपनी बात यहीं समाप्त करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।